Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are located. I would like to welcome you to the session about land consolidation from plan to implementation. I will be chairing the session for you, and I'm chair of Commission 8, and this is also a Commission 8 session. We will have 5 presentations about land consolidation, and these will address various topics of within land consolidation. Some will really move beyond the traditional approach in land consolidation, so moving beyond the agricultural practice, and also focusing on more holistic and sustainable approach in land consolidation. And we also have some country practices from land consolidation. So it promised to be a very nice, interesting session where you can hear all the ins and outs of the latest practice in land consolidation. Just a practical question. We will first have the 5 presentations. You can see in Hopin on the right-hand side 2 polls. This is just for us to get to know you a little bit better, what kind of background you have. So please take a second to answer the polls. And you can also find there on the other tab a Q&A button. So should you have any questions for the presenters that you would like us to address in the panel discussion, please post your questions here, and then we can take them into account in the session and in the panel discussion. So for now, I would like first to have the 5 presentations, and then at the end we will have the panel discussion where all the 5 presenters will be on the stage and where we will have the discussion, and where we can also answer, of course, your questions which you posted in the Q&A. So let me first introduce you to the first presenter. That is Kalle Kontinen. He is working for the National Land Survey in Finland, and he has submitted a paper about the preliminary study for holistic approach assessing land consolidation effects in Finland. So please enjoy. The floor is to Kalle.
My presentation for today includes our new study about effects of land consolidations in Finland, and also about our new ways to presenting need for land consolidations in Finland. So first of all, the effects of land consolidations. Sievi is a municipality that have been through 5 land consolidations in recent years. So it is good time to compare it for neighboring municipalities that haven't been through land consolidations. First, and I would say most important topic that we found out was that agricultural land rentals went down in Sievi while land consolidations were going on in Sievi. Neighboring municipalities rental percentage of rentals remained very same or didn't change. Other interesting topic was that clearance of new agricultural land was minimized in Sievi. We believe that this is because farmers didn't have need for new land because they got it through land consolidations. Also, we have had now in recent months our new research about how we investigate need for land consolidations in Finland. So we did this thing that we put Finland with this 5 times 5 kilometer grid, and we research every square. What's the situation with that square with the land consolidations? First, we research parcel growth potential. Here you can see Western and Southern Finland, there is more potential than in other places. Also, we made this combination variable, farm development potential. It includes farm parcels fragmentation, average farming parcel size, average farming distance, parcel merge potential, and how much farmland is within 10 kilometers of a farmhouse. And we combined all these, and we got farm development potential. Here you can see right farm development potential and left parcel growth potential. So you can see Western Finland and Southern Finland, lot of potential. This was my presentation. Thank you.
Yes, here I am. I was just requesting the stage. Well, thank you, Kalle, very much for your presentation, and we will well come back to you in the panel discussion. Perhaps I should also notice that Georgi Georgiev was supposed to give a presentation as well, but unfortunately he's not able to attend. So that's why we will move on to the next presentation, which is from Torben Julsage. And let me just check. Now I have to. Oh yes, this is. I have to share it the other way. I'm sorry. This is a technical thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Just a second. I first have to start the presentation before I can share it with you in the screen. And I am supposed to open, audio delen. Yes. Okay. And then I will start the presentation.
Marije, we cannot seem to hear anything.
Oh,
So we've been looking at 2 slides without sound. Can you maybe restart and try to fix the sound?
Yes, I'm sure, because I hear everything, but I'm not sure why it's not sharing with you.
No. Okay.
How can we best solve it?
Did you click on the share audio button? You did?
Yes, but this is only available in the share screen. So then I should not share. Well, let's try again. Yeah. Okay. Should I first stop sharing? And then I also have to restart the presentation. Yes. Okay, I try the other way. If it doesn't work, please let me know, because this is the first time that I do it this way.
Welcome to this presentation and this formal cover. I will immediately go to the content of my presentation. The topic is an approach to multifunctional land consolidation, a main tool under development in creating sustainable land use in rural areas in Denmark. Item 1. Challenges. 61% of the Danish area is intensively cultivated. The farms are large and fragmented, with many scattered lots far away from the farm buildings, a structure that challenges the profitability of farming. In addition, production has a major impact on the landscape, such as a high carbon footprint, potential pollution of aquatic environments and groundwater, as well as poor biodiversity in the monocultures. Due to the mentioned effects of farming, there is a challenge in achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals. There is a great deal of interest in use of the open land. A study has shown that 140% of Denmark's total area is needed if all wishes and plans are to be realized. The Danish public administration is built up in administrative silos which poorly support handling of cross-cutting issues. The open country is basically a no-go zone with public legal constraints and restrictions. Item 2. Targets. In order to create sustainable solutions for future land use, there must be some targets related to the UN Sustainable Development Goals that will guide us for solutions. Specifically, goals have been set for ensuring clean drinking water and improving water quality in the aquatic environments. To mitigate the effects of climate changes, targets have been set for greenhouse gas emissions and mitigation of floods. It is a target to create a more diverse nature with better opportunities for outdoor activities. To improve the economy of the agricultural sector is a high-profile target. And finally, it is a goal to improve living conditions in the outlying communities in the open country. Item 3. Approach. In Denmark, we believe in dialogue-based solutions as the most sustainable solutions. Therefore, the current model for creating a new use of the open land is based on a collective impact approach. Collective impact builds on 5 conditions, which can be summarized as follows. In order to create lasting solutions to social problems on a large scale, organizations, including those in government, civil society, and the business sector, need to coordinate their efforts and work together around a clearly defined goal. Item 4. Solutions. An obvious tool is land consolidation, a dialogue-based method which through land conversion paves the way for changes in land use. In the new context, it must handle multifunctionality. Pilot projects are in progress, conducted by Ministry of Food, Agriculture and Fisheries. There is an opportunity to apply for financial support for the implementation of free multifunctional land consolidation in a 2-year trial period. The projects have to fulfill some requirements. Among others, projects must be locally based. Project description must be available. There must be a financing plan, and projects must meet at least 3 national interests, including at least 1 EU directive implementing interest. The national interests are listed here, divided into EU directive implementing interests and other interests. Finally, a process sequence is outlined in a multifunctional project. It consists of 4 main phases: design phase, including project and financing plan, description, application and commitment; development phase, including multifunctional land consolidation; realization phase, including establishment and compensation; and finally registration phase, including updating of digital property registers. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you. I first have to set up my screen because it's now going black. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, Torben. I think it's a very interesting questions, and I definitely have some questions for the panel discussion, which relate to the multifunctional approach, of course. But let's first proceed to the next presenter. This is Charles Atacora. He will present, and let me put the video on the stage.
Welcome to this brief introduction on the presentation. The topic briefly talks about the tale of two countries considering the land consolidation in Germany and the land use consolidation in Rwanda. So the main objective was to determine the baseline conditions for the development of land consolidation as a rural development tool, and also to develop an assessment framework, and as well to test for optimization what the assessment framework is going to be with a comparative study of Germany and Rwanda. So the assessment framework considered the first two considerations, the structure and strategy of the processes involved. The main thing to consider was the stakeholder focus. It was by no mistake we considered the sustainability as a center of focus of this research. So the political, legal considerations, the economic, technological, social, and environmental considerations. Then this we zoom down to thematic considerations like village renewal, just commonplace in most rural places or communities, agriculture, ecology, irrigation, and as a means of transportation or network, we consider the rail or road construction. And then the perspectives of the top-down or the bottom-up considerations with the different levels of monitoring or engagement of stakeholders from province to the national or to the county, depending on the consideration of the country, and also the focus on internal or the international perspectives. The country state studies we considered was Rwanda. One would ask why Rwanda? Rwanda because Rwanda is the citadel of development currently, and also not drawing from the fact that they came from a very dark past and they are really thriving. But it's interesting to note that they are, if not the only country in Southern Africa practicing some form of land consolidation, which is the land use consolidation, which give them specific perspectives on growing of staple crops and an involvement of the local people as a form of developmental approach. And then this falls on the backdrop of the land crop intensification program they initiated since 2008. And then the comparison with the status of land consolidation in Germany, where Germany has about 150 years of experience in land consolidation, and on the European continent is actually seen to be force to reckon with. And in this comparison, we considered the Rhineland-Pfalz area in Germany, where there's a prevalence of the viticulture growth or the growth of grapes, which is a more traditional approach, and considering the fact that under the crop intensification program in Rwanda, where there are staples grown like the beans, the cowpeas, the cassava, and the sweet potatoes. And the main thing was, although the land use consolidation could be considered a unique form of land consolidation, the two are different in terms of the activities involved and must clearly be noted. So the research revealed that there were political, or there were certain indicators we looked at from both country perspectives and the personal considerations. And for instance, in the political and legal perspective, we considered the dispute resolution, and you realize that in Germany everything was really structured with the backing of the Land Consolidation Act. You find out that disputes are usually solved or settled through the court system, which is a bit more rigorous approach as compared to what happens in Rwanda, for instance, where there's a government-sponsored advisory services which is not really transparent. And the technological considerations was a fair balance because there's access to land which is also automated in both countries, and then the use of appropriate technology, which was really evident in the research. So the main conclusions realized that land consolidation is a holistic instrument for the integrated rural development, and also an applicable evaluation or monitoring framework is necessary for accountability.
Well, thank you very much, Charles. It's a very interesting comparison between two completely different practices, I would say, because the institutional setting is different. The tenure setting is different between the two countries. So we will definitely touch upon it later in the panel discussion. And for now, thank you for this presentation. Then I will invite the next speaker, Nenad Gvozdenovic, to the stage. He will give a presentation about land consolidation in Ethiopia. So the floor is yours, Nenad.
Working week participants, regarding the session 8.1, land consolidation, please let me introduce to you joint Ethiopian-German land governance project with the main aim to create necessary conditions for implementation participatory land consolidation procedures. My name is Nenad Gvozdenovic and I am engaged as a land consolidation advisor on the project. The project is commissioned by German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, and implemented by GIZ. The main project partner is the Ministry of Agriculture, particularly Rural Land Administration and Use Directorate, and since the land consolidation pilots will be implemented in Amara region, also will be involved Amara Land Administration and Use Bureau. The project budget is 10 million euro. Since the fragmentation of agricultural land is increasing in Ethiopia, Ministry of Agriculture recognized as a huge need to address this challenge in seeking support through land consolidation as a land governance instrument to have more competitive and more professional primary agricultural production, to improve working and life conditions in the rural areas, and to have more efficient structured natural resources. Around 70% of population depend from agriculture and contributes to 38% of gross national product. The average size of the farm is 1.5 to 2 hectares, and some assessment done in Amara region shows that households have between 6 and 15 plots. Until now, there is no developed guidelines and legislation who regulated the topic of land consolidation, but also there is no practical experience and there are no capacities on national and regional level within this topic. The main outputs 1 and 2 on a local regional level in Amara will be to gather experience on land consolidation procedures, raising awareness and preparation methodology, and also to increase capacities on national and regional level on procedures of land consolidation and voluntary land exchange. Also to support land consolidation committees to develop and to adopt plans for common and public systems, including implementation of the small-scale infrastructure works. On national level, very important activities will be to develop guidelines on land consolidation procedures based on lessons learned and experience from land consolidation pilot projects, but also to draft land consolidation law in accordance with the FO land consolidation legal guidelines, taking in consideration baseline assessment and strongly supported with the lessons learned and experience from pilot land consolidation projects. On the end, I would like to mention the capacities of national and regional level, as well capacities of private service providers, will be increased in order to implement second level certification within the Climate Action Landscape Management Program, which is the prerequisite for land consolidation process.
Nenad. There is a lot to tell, I would say, and I understood that you are still at the start of the project in Ethiopia. But yeah, let's. Of course, you have some plans and ideas about how you would like to tackle some issues you will encounter on the road of implementing land consolidation. Let's move on to the last presentation of this session. This is a presentation by Kwabena Asiyama. He's currently the chair of the Young Surveyors. And in this presentation, well, he's also having a regular job, I would say, at the university in Germany. And I will share his presentation now. So one moment. And then I will give the floor to Kwabena. And this is about the Ghana application of land consolidation. I'm just checking with the backstage if everything goes well with sharing the screen. It seems that the video is not being pushed. Oh, as a guest, you can share up to 3 videos at once. To share a new video, remove one of your existing videos. Okay, I have to remove one. Let's do that first. This is the first time that I have so many videos, so I'm sorry. It's just that I'm also encountering this problem now. Okay, now it should work.
Hello everyone, I'm Kwabena Asiyama and I'm here to present on my paper, Meeting the 2030 Agenda, Responsible Consolidation of Ghana's Customary Lands. And so to start with, let's just set the scene. Now, the link between land and societal problems has been expressed in many contexts, showing that the 2030 global agenda centers to a larger degree on the people-to-land relationship, as well as how this relationship is leveraged to land management in development programs towards the development goals. Though much has been written on land consolidation recently, those studies have focused on specific pilots and cases and are thus limited to those countries. This study, using a systematic approach, undertakes an in-depth looks at in-depth process of the development of a responsible land consolidation approach on customary lands. This study aims to examine how contemporary land consolidation instruments can aid Ghana in achieving the sustainable development goals relating to ending poverty, ending hunger, and developing sustainable cities and settlements through land tenure, food security, and rural development programs. A research design approach was used in this study. The first step explores the factors which need to be addressed on customary lands to develop a responsible approach to land consolidation. And the result was that of the comparative approach which was done between Ghana, the Netherlands, Lithuania, and Rwanda showed that for land consolidation to be developed in Ghana, 4 factors have to be adapted to. First is the state of the economy, the form of land fragmentation, the ecological consideration, and last but not least, the level of farming technology. So let's take these one by one, how we reached them and the results we got out of them. So the second step was looking at participatory land administration. And participatory land administration is an approach to solving the land administration problem of passing boundary recordation via the use of satellite images as well as smartphones with the support of the local people. So here is the result of the step of participatory land administration. And so we have 2 approaches that were used, and in the blue boundaries we can see that these were the ones that were found through or identified through a satellite image, and then those with the red boundaries were identified through the smartphone app. And in general, the amount of land that was identified through the satellite image by human visualization ended up being 60% of all the parcels in the area. And so side by side, the smartphone app was able to identify the parcel boundaries more accurately. The next step is looking at the land value indices. Now here the land value indices is a developed land valuation approach that was used to value farmland parcels on Kashmir lands, especially those that have low land mobility, and so there is little data to rely on. And so here is the result of it. So the land value index placed lands in a quid pro quo manner from 0 to a highest value of 1.0. And so from here you can see the different values of the land as we have in the area. Then the last but not the least step is the land reallocation, and here it was achieved through a process modeling for the development of the process of land reallocation, taking the social, economic, cultural, technical, and political considerations of the area into account. And here the model framework was applied to the study area, and it was found that although physical fragmentation significantly reduced, with a reduction in the number of parcels, farmland parcels, and an increase in the parcel sizes, a reduction in the land tenure fragmentation, and an increased access to the lines of transportation, and a slight improvement in parcel shapes in the area, even though this was not the goal of the approach. However, the most appropriate central mediating authority in the area was found to be the traditional authority in the area, which is much more different from other areas as we know it where land reallocation has been done. So to round this off, let me just talk about the lessons that were learned. So the first lesson was that 2 key lessons. The first was that land consolidation is possible on Kashmir lands if certain factors are considered. And last but not the least, even though the current approaches to land consolidation can be done on Kashmir lands, because of the nature of the land tenure system, there is a back and forth and a tug of war between the physical and the legal factors which can be resolved. And so the more the physical factors are attended to, the more exacerbating the legal factors become, and vice versa. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Kwabena, for this very interesting presentation. It's also quite complex, I would say, if you hear it for the first time, especially the part of your conclusions. Well, this is also due perhaps to the short presentation. We had to compress it into a couple of minutes to show everyone the highlights. Well, let's open the floor. I'm not sure we have a poll, and let's have a look at it now. You can see it yourself in Hopin on the right-hand side on the second tab. You see the results. We asked you 2 questions. And I'm not sure if the technical assistants can put the results on the stage. I'm not sure if it's technical possible, but otherwise I would like to ask you to have a look at the results in the polls tab you can find on the right-hand side. Well, first for us at poll 1, what is your experience with land consolidation? This is a little bit for us to get to know you. And we have quite some experienced land consolidation experts in the room. So that is, well, we don't have to explain you so much anymore, but well, we will have some interesting discussion, I suppose. And a couple of responses that no practical experience yet. And then the second poll, for which purpose is land consolidation suitable? Well, and I think there's all answers got a response, but the majority voted for a combination of purposes. And I think, this is really true that you can combine various objectives in one land consolidation plan and achieve various spatial results regarding agriculture, but also nature conservation or water management and the like, or rural development in general, of course. But yeah, the question is it possible, and to what extent is it also applied in practice, of course? We know many examples of land consolidation that improve the agriculture, reduce land fragmentation, etc. But yeah, there's not so well. There's coming more and more projects taking a holistic approach, an integrative approach, also addressing other aims. At least I know from in Denmark and the Netherlands as well. Okay, so let's have a look. We have some questions from the audience in the Q&A. But before we move to that one, I would like to invite all the panelists on the stage. Yes, here they are. Okay, thank you. It's nice to see you all together now instead of having you one by one giving a presentation. So I think, well, we have quite some land consolidation experts here on the stage, so that I'm very pleased with. Well, let me first start with a short round with a general question. If there's anything you would like to add to the video that we showed, to your presentation. So let me give, well, I just follow the order of the presentation. So first, let me give the floor to Kalle.
Yeah, maybe I would like to add that our research, in the topic of our research was the term holistic, and that means there that other effects than agricultural effects of the land consolidations. We have in Finland tradition that we are very well within calculations of agricultural benefits of land consolidations. So this research was focusing on other effects. So therefore, it might sound a little bit strange that I didn't talk a lot about agricultural benefits.
Yeah, well, okay, but I think it's nice to also highlight. You're right to highlight now also other benefits and other objectives that you pursued in land consolidation, because I think the benefits for agriculture are already well described in literature and well known. I would say, well, we have a long-standing experience in many countries regarding this. Okay, so thank you for this extension, for this addition. Torben, can I give you the floor if there's anything you would like to add to your presentation?
Yes, thank you.
I would like to add that the land consolidation in this Danish process in getting a more sustainable land use is based on volunteering participation. So that's very important for me to underpin. It's volunteering to go into this kind of process and to go into the land consolidation. We have discussed if we should have a possibility to use expropriation, but it will be like a revolver method. If you won't participate volunteer, then we can expropriate. So it's out of discussion at the moment.
And that is because of the political will. I do fully understand that. I mean, I know it's like expropriation is a no-go for many politicians. They all want to achieve it on a voluntary basis. Yeah. But then, let me also, are the results also satisfying? Because I also know on a voluntary basis, there just only have to be one landowner or land user that really doesn't want to cooperate, and it will also affect, of course, the other participants or landowners or land users in the area, because you exchange the land. So, you're depending on each other.
Yes. Yeah, that's how it is. Sometimes one owner, if he participates or she participated, really would give a much better result. But that's the conditions, and it's decided politically.
Okay, but still, the results are satisfying. What you can achieve on a voluntary basis.
Yes, we have had 4 model projects conducted by a group, in fact, called Collective Impact, and they have been made measurements of the results and the outcome of these 4 model land consolidation projects. And they have been very positive until now. Okay. They have been making measurements on the different interests and the effect on land use before the land consolidation, then a year after the land consolidation, and I think they will make another measurement here approximately 3 or 5 years after. And it's under supervision from the universities in Denmark.
Well, that's interesting, because actually you measure, it's also based on the opinion of the participants. So they have kind of a longitudinal approach that you can see if also their opinion or the satisfaction has changed over time. Yeah, okay. Yeah, because from my own experience, I know that during the project, people often object, but then at the end, when they have the final result and then they are used to the new situation, then after sometimes say, well, it really improved. It's much better now. But during the process, they were still, had some objections, or they were not convinced that it was much better for them.
Primarily, it's measurings on the objects that we have to fulfill in the land consolidation. For instance, the carbon footprint. So it's quite objective. But of course, there is a physically result outcome of the process, and there will be afterwards interviews with the participants.
Okay. Well, I would recommend such an approach perhaps for every land consolidation project in every country, because it's very valuable also to hear the position or the interpretation of the involved stakeholders. Okay, thank you. Well, I can talk a long time about this. Let's move on to the next, and I have to cheat, to Charles. Is there anything you would like to complement based on the presentation?
Yes, exactly. Thank you for the opportunity. So our research paper was established on the basis of the SDGs. So it clearly sought to establish the linkages between different or various practices in land consolidation, rather than establishing a stark difference between both. So if you'd consider Rwanda and Germany, there's a stark difference. But in this time of sustainability and growth, we should look at the linkages in order to see growth. So that was actually the main background to this research. And I'm fortunate because Kwabna happens to be my co-author, and if he has any other thing to say, I'll be glad. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, Oh, Kwabena, you're muted. Would you like to add something? Please unmute yourself then.
Yeah, sorry. I think, Charles, I will link my presentation to yours when I am talking about mine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's excellent. Yeah. Well, I'm interested that you say this because I think, well, the objective to include the SDGs and to be sustainable in your project is an overall objective that is pursued in all land consolidation projects. But it's about how you implement the project that you really come across those differences in land tenure physical differences, different interests, different culture. So it's, well, upon the implementation, then you really have to know what you're doing and adapt the process approach to the local circumstance and the situational context, I believe. And well, that's what I like very much about your presentation. I do have some questions, but let's first move on to, well, shall I first go to Kwabena then, if you would like to relate, and then last to Nenad?
It's okay.
Yeah, okay, then first to Kwabena.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so just to give the conception of the work that I presented, it was actually my PhD thesis. That's why it was so big, and so there are a lot of nuances within it which were not shown. But then, in many ways, it is it's quite similar to the work that Charles did, in a sense that in a lot of land consolidation processes, we see that there is, especially with relation to the land tenure in the area, there's always a push to change the land tenure system in order to fit forced land consolidation onto the system. And of course, the land consolidation, conventional land consolidation, as we know it, really works with individual rights mostly. The land reallocation approaches and all that only works with individual rights. And so whenever you get into a situation that you have a customary interest, a communal interest, it becomes a problem because you are now dealing with several levels of authority, several levels of land tenure systems. And so connecting that to Charles's presentation also, one of the interesting things about Rwanda is that before they undertook their land consolidation, their land use consolidation, which a lot of people say is different from conventional land consolidation, that's a different story. They had a customary land tenure system, which then had to shift into the individual freehold system. But then if you look at a country like Ghana and if you look at a country like Botswana, you have a situation where if the customary land tenure system is so ingrained in the system that if you decide to change it a little bit, you begin to have the situation in Kenya in the 50s when they undertook their land consolidation. And I will quote a land official from Kenya who said that people still have their lands hanging in the skies since the 50s because they put all their lands in a pool and several people and families have still not gotten their lands back because they turned it into individual freehold system before they got into land consolidation. So that is basically the crux of my work about undertaking land consolidation, adapting it into customary land tenure system. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. It's a very interesting topic. Because it's also, if you do have customary land rights and look at a different level, well, how are you going to optimize the allocation of land? You know, I think, and what will you register or record in your land administration system, and what will you determine based on customary rights in the field, so to say, within the traditional systems of using those rights. So, well, this is like a dual approach, you know, you have both the formal and then the customary. So it adds an extra dimension, making it more complex. But yeah, you must make sure that you will secure the land rights of those involved, because otherwise land consolidation will only turn out, have very bad effects for the people involved. And that's not something we would like to do. I mean, it must be sustainable and, yeah, securing the land rights instead of the other way around, making the situation more insecure. Okay, so let's go now. Move to the last presenter to Nenad. If you would like to highlight some things and in addition to your presentation.
Thank you, Maria. First of all, I would like to say good morning to all participants in session 8.1 Land Consolidation, and we are really very glad that we get opportunity on such event to present the project and our goals, which is the main aim to create necessary conditions for implementation of participatory land consolidation process. I don't have so much to add. I would just like to underline something which I already mentioned, but maybe a little bit more detailed in this moment, because we already mentioned that we are the project on beginning, and we are in the phase when we are developing the criteria for selection of land consolidation pilots, which will be implemented in Amara region, and we hope that until, let's say, the end of the August, we will finish this process, and that we will start with implementation phase on the field, which is really important because we already described situation on the field that there is really huge need for land consolidation, why there is a huge need, and also from the other side that there is no legal base, there is no capacity development. But we all know that implementation of land consolidation pilots and the experience which we can collect during the implementation can really strongly support and capacity development, but also as one of the main results of our project is drafting the land consolidation law. We also think that experience will also strongly support drafting the law, taking in consideration, as we mentioned, baseline assessment, so assessment of capacities, but also assessment of national legislation, and of course taking in consideration national, regional, and traditional historical context, because this is really necessary when we are doing activities like this. So I would like just to mention that my colleague Daniel and Dashley and me prepared the content for presentation, and we are glad to hear the questions from you.
Yes, thank you. Well, let's move to the first set of questions, and I do them just as they were posted in the Q&A, but try to combine them a little bit. The first one is to address to Kalle. What is your suggestion to minimize the amount of parcels in our country, and this is the Netherlands? There is no restriction to split or subdivide the parcels, but do you have any guidelines regarding this?
In Finland, we don't have restrictions about splitting parcels. Earlier, something like 70 years ago or 100 years ago, we had those, but now we have a quite liberal policy that if a farmer wants to split parcel, he can do it. But we approach this with land consolidations. If there is a lot of small parcels, we go to market land consolidations to that area. That is our answer to that.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, because Jan Spijkerboer asked this question, and he also refers to practice in the Netherlands, where some landowners with an eye on the future want to have, of course, they want to have big parcels in the field, which eases, of course, working the land with the machines. But the land becomes much getting a higher price if you are able to build a new house on the land. So we have in the Netherlands, we have the farmhouses, in the field, so to say, of course, along the roads, but they're not necessarily located in villages. So then they would like to subdivide part of the parcel into a smaller parcel, which they can then build a new house on. And then, of course, the value of the land increases
we have that problem also in Finland, but mostly next to the cities. If you go 50, 100 kilometers from city, the building value is not so much, so people don't care about that anymore. But I understand in Netherlands there is no place 100 kilometers from the city. So
That is true. Well, okay, everything is relative, but you're everywhere within, I would say, well, 50 kilometers, you're within in reach of a city. So within commuting time of 1 hour, and that's what most people find acceptable to commute to the city. Okay, let me check some other questions. This one is addressed to Kwabena. Very interesting presentation. What was the motivation of the smallholders to integrate the land consolidation scheme?
Well, thank you very much, Ariella. The motivation of smallholder farmers was simple. It was mechanization. So you have a situation where you had the farming systems, and if you remember in my presentation, I mentioned that one of the things that have to be adapted is the farming system. So you have an area where for hundreds of years they have been doing shifting cultivation, but then with the demand of food, people start farming all their parcels all together at the same time, but then they are not able to do that. One issue with that is they are not able to move to all their farmland parcels. But then within the area, the people also don't have the money to purchase mechanized farming equipment like tractors and combine harvesters and the like, but they are very much interested in using this. And so they hire them. But then when they hire and I'm talking about the particular case I worked on in this situation, it might be different in other parts of Ghana. So when they hire their the mechanized farming equipment, they are required to have a farmland parcel, not all your farmland holding. Your farmland parcel has to be at least 8 hectares. Now, you have a lot of people who have farmland holdings that are above 8 hectares. In fact, about 40% of about 60% of the people in the area had farms that were way in excess of 8 acres. But then they are all separated, and so they are not able to mechanize their farming. So, in fact, in the area, that was the one single reason why most people wanted to join the land consolidation scheme, or were interested in the land consolidation scheme, because it was a situation that the farmers association over there had been deliberating on over and over again. So, simply put, the mechanization was the goal of it. So was their motivation. So as a result of that, the work also didn't go beyond any other goals for land consolidation apart from food productivity, and not food security, but only increasing food productivity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Well, there's also a follow-up question, I would say, so you can take some water and then you can answer the next one.
I can continue with that.
You have read it yourself. So, I should I will read it out because
who were the participants in the land consolidation scheme, and for instance, how were integrated women's land rights? Many thanks in advance. This is quite interesting because I mentioned that this work is coming from my PhD, and this exact question I actually got this exact question from Chris Lemon. And my answer was that, well, I also didn't talk about men's land rights, so there was a balance over there. But the issue is that, having read about land consolidation schemes in Africa from the past, especially from the 50s, I realized that if you change the social circumstances or the social atmosphere in the area, if you change the economic one, if you change if you attempt to change the way they manage their environment, and then ask them again to go into a land consolidation scheme, that is a lot of changes for a group of people who just want to produce more food. And so the goal of this project was actually just how to maintain the land rights in the area and then consolidate, so that in the process of consolidation, a way that we made sure that there was equity in the land rights was to actually try to scale back from their attempts to get into individual land rights, because with the customary land tenure system, you have group rights and not individual rights. And so if the land rights over there are registered for the group and not in the name of the head of the household, which is always a man, then you actually have the secondary rights holders having access to the land, because anytime it is mentioned, who does this land belong to? The land does not belong to Randy, but the land belongs to Randy's family. So Randy's wife and Randy's children, or Randy's aunt or his mother, are all seen as members of that group, and so they have land, they have rights to the land, and not just having Randy's name as the primary landowner. So there was no, in the participatory land administration, there was nothing like the primary right holder in it. But then you have the head of the family who helps to make the decisions, but he's not the primary land rights holder. And so in that case, it took care of the issue of women's land rights and then the youth land rights. Thank you.
May I also touch upon this or continue in this direction? And I would also like to ask Charles regarding this, because it touches upon public participation, actually, in my opinion. How do you make sure that, or how do you organize that all the involved right holders, whether it be land use right holders or ownership rights, how they are involved in the project? Because I can imagine that you first need to make sure that you have an overview of all involved right holders. So that's the first step, and to be inclusive. And this also touches upon the gender discussion or anything else. So how did you cope with that in Rwanda, or did you incorporate it also in the comparison with Germany, how it was organized?
So exactly. So like the assessment framework clearly showed, there's a consideration of the bottom up and the top down. So let's say the top down refers to the considerations where the government, to its agencies, reach out to the people on the grassroots or people in the rural communities. And on the other hand, you realize that from the bottom up process, you engage the key stakeholders like the farmers and then the community leaders. So it's more of how you clearly communicate your goals for land consolidation, because in the instance of Germany, if I should say, it's a more structured process where there's a sort of laid out principles with the Land Consolidation Act. So it's like every step of the way, the act guides whatever happens from bottom up to top down. Then in the case of Rwanda, it is more of, it's transparent, but it's more of a top-down approach where, like Isiama rightly said, because of cost issues or mechanization, and maybe for some subsidies, the locals would want to tap into the structured nature of land consolidation to gain some kind of ease with production and food security. And that's what the issue like is in Rwanda. And I think that in this day and age, I think there's a need for more transparency and inter-regional dialogue to actually foster the growth of land consolidation in this regard.
Mm-hmm. And is there also any safeguards for those involved in Rwanda that they can rely on, that they have the right to participate in the process?
So actually what happens in the case of Rwanda, they are local cooperatives, and then they have a team leader or a head. So it's like the channels of communications are really, really on the local basis. So in order to have some sort of engagement with, let's say, either the female gender or the male gender, I think it depends on the cooperatives and how they are structured, because they have different cells, sectors, and then provinces. So that's what actually works in Rwanda.
Okay, so it's more based on common practice and then that it's very much formalized and public participation is everywhere the same.
I think with my experience of this working week, I think the best term to use would be fit for purpose, because I mean, they would consider their local analysis and everything, and then structure it according to what the needs are. Or for instance, in the case of land use consolidation, where they have production of staple crops. So you realize that in this particular growth season, cowpea is doing well. So through the cooperatives, the farmers know that this particular land use consolidation project is going to be used for cowpea or cassava. Then we consider the growth per yield. In the next farming season, we consider, let's say, the beans. So I think it's a fit for purpose and considerations on the local level.
Yeah, yeah. Well, interesting. Yeah, I like those various country practices. I mean, if you're not familiar with it, it's difficult to grasp at first sight. So right. I think that's why it's so nice to have it here in this platform and also in this session to have the different country examples. There's also a question for Torben. In your presentation, you mentioned a 2-year trial for land consolidation. What are the conditions to accomplish the project in 2 years? And is it possible to accomplish in 2 years? I mean, perhaps I should ask that first.
Well, perhaps I have to make myself more clear, because at the moment we are here in Denmark, we are developing multifunctional projects in the rural areas, and land consolidation is a very important tool. And to develop this tool in a multifunctional perspective, there has been an NGO organization called Collective Impact under a major organization in Denmark called Realdania, who supports developing the cities and the open areas. And this organization, Collective Impact, has made these model projects for multifunctional land consolidation, 4 projects they have made. And these projects have inspired the ministry to develop land consolidation as a tool in these multifunctional projects. Therefore, there is a period here from 2020 to 2022 where you can ask for support for a multifunctional land consolidation project. There are 4 open windows, 2 in 2020 and 2 in 2021, where you can present your project, you can present your financing plan, and you can present that the project fulfill the requirements, and then the ministry will evaluate your project, and some are denied and some will have accept. And then you can start your project. And of course, a land consolidation project will take more than 2 years. I think it will take perhaps up to 5 years. But in this period here, you can seek to get support to a project, and then the project has to be performed afterwards. The purpose with this is to make a platform for national land reform, where we want to reorganize the structure in the rural areas. Yes. Yes. So actually, it's well, the 2 year you were mentioning was just for the application to organize yourself to make a project proposal actually. And well, is it done by the landowners themselves? Do they really have to, or do you facilitate this process? Due to this, that it's a trial period, if you can call it, it's the municipalities who have to seek for support. And of course, when the municipalities look in the landscape locally, they also get input from local farmers, from local NGOs, and of course, as authority, they also know the countryside in the area, and sometimes go out and ask some landowners and the interest groups to think in a restructure of the area. So in this short period where we develop this method, it's the municipalities who have to ask for support and who has to present the projects. Of course, some local NGOs have prepared themselves for this situation and have projects that they bring to the municipality, said, okay, we have a project here, and they use advisors. Yeah. Yeah, and Kalle also would like to respond to it, so please. Yeah,
I had additional question to Torben about this topic. Has government money allocated to this project already?
Yes, they have allocated money for this trial period here. Yes.
How much? You know.
It's 150 million Danish kroner. I think
it's euros. It's
euros. 2 million euros.
Okay, yeah.
Or 20 million euros. I'm sorry. 20
okay, that's
million.
a lot. That's a lot. Because I know the budgets, because Denmark and Finland is a very similar country, and 20 million euros is a lot, I would say.
Oh, Nenad, you have to unmute yourself if you would like to comment. Yeah.
Sorry. I would just also like to comment, to ask, it's interesting, financial activities are always interesting to be discussed. 20 million euros, in rough, how much is covering land consolidation pilots in the area also? How many hectares and how many participants is involved with this support? I mean, I know just roughly estimation if you have.
The estimation is that it will involve 9,000 hectares of land, approximately. Some of the pilot projects involve 30 farmers, and one of them, that there are 4 projects in progress at the moment, and one of them involves, I think, is about 100 farmers.
So there's quite some number of stakeholders if you do it on a voluntary basis.
Yeah, it is, yes.
It's 100 farmers on these 9,000 hectares, if I understand well.
Yes, it's one project. I think that the large project involves more than 1,000 hectares.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
By the way, my agency's land consolidation budget for yearly budget is around 6 to 7 million euros. So you have a 3 years budget there compared to our budget.
Okay, and this budget is also granted upon the start of the project so that they know that they can finish. Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, where there's many questions coming in, so thank you for that for the audience. It's a lively discussion. So I will move on to the next one. This is an open question. I'm not sure if who would like to answer this one. At least I can answer and give some information. Do you use specific tools and software that includes geo-information such as maps, satellite imagery, etc., upon the implementation of land consolidation? And well, I think you must use some maps to some extent. I mean, we saw the example of Kwabena, where there was, created a land administrating for cadastral map, so to say, upon the start of the project. So if it's not there, you have to make it yourself, and otherwise you use available information, whether it will be analog or digital. But I think there's that whole range in country practices from fully analog material. I saw, Nenad, you were standing for paper-based maps. And I also know tomorrow we have a workshop about a generic tool, digital tool to support land consolidation. So, and there we use all available online digital maps, like you have in a spatial data infrastructure with different layers, ranging from ortho photos to cadastral map, of course, soil maps, etc., etc., etc. So there you have basically all the information digitally available. But of course, this depends very much on the availability of data in a country, and also the quality of the data, I would say. Of course, we do have those open source available data, but sometimes the resolution is not high enough to use. Then you have to find alternatives. And I'm not sure if someone else of you would like to complement how you deal. Yeah, Charles, please, the floor is yours.
So I think this is a very good intervention because during our research, you realized that in Rwanda, to promote rural development with land consolidation, they've made it even more accessible to the local farmers, where they can get information on their land parcels via a unique personal identifier on their mobile phones. So I think that to promote rural development with land consolidation globally, not just in Rwanda or Germany. I think that the rural folks should be considered with mobility of data and access. Yeah.
Yes, and I think it's also very important that all stakeholders have access to the same information, so that information is not kept away from the landowners or land users, but they must be able to access the data that is used for, and also the maps, but it's not only maps, I would say, it's also administrative data related or displayed on the map. But yeah, there must be an equal accessibility for all stakeholders to the information.
I would like also just to mention that I also think that it's really very important software support, because we know that transparency and active participation, how much we really are successful in how to say, involvement of the farmers in active participation of the whole process. And this software really could strongly support this process. And this is one of the key factors how land consolidation process can be implemented successfully. So that's why I think that for sure can strongly support whole process of land consolidation.
Yes, thank you for the. Oh, yeah, Kwabena.
Yeah, just a quick. I would just like to add that with the tools and the software, especially with respect to the satellite imagery or the maps that are used, it's quite important that in the area where you are using it, it should be something that the people themselves can actually reproduce it, because you find a lot of times you go to a country and then people they don't think about their lands in the sense of a centimeter accuracy, but then they think of it as, like in my example, I got there and then I asked them, well, where's the boundary of your land? And then they did this. I stood on a footpath and then literally opened their arms like this, that this is my boundary. And so, for example, with that one, I can't go and tell the person that, well, you say this is your boundary, but this is your boundary, because that's how they think about it. And so it should be whatever software that is used, it shouldn't be the software that's the best on the market, but then what people themselves will be able to relate to. Because land consolidation is an exercise which some people might feel they are losing their lands. And so as soon as you bring in something that they don't understand a little bit, it becomes a problem. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I also had the occasion that I was talking to a farmer, and we had like high precision maps with high precision cadastral map and a topographical map underneath. And I was asking, oh yeah, where is your parcel? But he could not point it out on the map because, yeah, well, I drive over this road and then at this tree I turn left, but he could not make a two-dimensional representation of, well, his daily drive to his field parcel. So yeah, this was something.
Exactly. And yeah, in my case, for example, one of the identification of their farms on the satellite image, I was surprised that one of the ways that they were doing it was counting the trees.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because one of the basis of showing your ownership of land is clearing the land.
Yeah.
Not clearing the trees, but clearing the land. So you leave all the big trees over there because the big trees, the fruits from the big trees are community assets. But then the land underneath it belongs to, or it's the person using the land holds the use rights. So they were like, oh yeah, I just counted the trees over there and then I know that this is my land. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Oh, Tore, yeah, you would like to respond, please? Yeah.
Yes. In Denmark, we have a good situation for starting land consolidation projects because, as in Netherlands, we have high precision maps. Denmark is a little country, so we flew over the country 1 to 2 times every year. We have many trustworthy digital data about properties. Our cadastral is quite good, and all the bindings on the land is registered digital today. So we have a very good starting point, and no one nearly discuss the validity of these data. So we are in a good position at the moment for starting. And as we say, as surveyors in Denmark, if we have to solve problems and discuss boundaries, we have to be on the spot. We have to be in the area. So our solutions are made in scale 1-to-1.
I would like also to comment, and I think, of course, that is important that people understand what they want, but somehow I see it also as responsibility of the leading agency or authority who is leading this process, that tool which they have, software, terror maps, adjust to that local circumstances much as possible, and to use that in order that people could understand better what's happening in land consolidation process. I think it's also the question of organization and how that will be presented to them.
Yes, I hear, if to summarize, I also hear a fit for purpose approach here, that in some countries it would be better to invite the people to go to the land and just check the boundaries so that they get also involved from the start and that they trust, the whole process. Because if you just say, okay, this is like it is, then it would be just a step too fast, I would say. But yeah, on the other hand, we have that really high precision maps. I think Denmark, well, the Netherlands is even smaller, but we also fly twice a year the aerial photos, topography. Yeah, so yeah, we do have all that information available, but still there is some errors in the cadastral map, of course. I mean, we always say that we are a very good cadaster, but I have seen some examples that I thought, well, how come? Like a water stream was going like this, and then the cadastral boundaries were just opposite. So, and you have to sort it out before you start with land consolidation to make sure that every stakeholder knows this is my right, this was my right, and with which I enter the process, and I also have the right to get allocated a similar amount of land of similar quality, so that they can continue the way they work the land, etc. So they're not negatively affected. And of course, we try to improve. That's the baseline, but at least they should have an equal share back of similar quality and size.
Yes, and here you have a point, Marie, because under all projects, under all interests in the open land, there are property rights. There are rights connected to properties. The financial sectors put mortgages into the properties. So we have to protect these rights during the process. And that's why it's very important. I think it's said by all the participants, all the presenters here, that we have to have transparency in this process. So people and the involved feel comfortable with the process. Yeah.
And you need to have a fair process. Well, all the principles of good governance must apply, I would say. We are almost about to round off the discussion, I would say, keeping an eye on the time. But there's just some questions coming in. I have two, one for Torben. Which are the additional parts in the multifunctional project next to land consolidation? And I'm not exactly sure how to understand it, if this is referring to additional objects or objectives. But perhaps you can respond.
I'll try to answer.
Okay.
Because sometimes we also have other tools. We can make binding agreements if we want to protect groundwater. Then we don't need to buy the land. Then we can make an agreement with a farmer that he still can use the land, but under some restrictions. And then you can make a binding agreement with the farmers. In Denmark, we have very good planning traditions, especially in the city areas. We have a law called planning law, and in this law, we made zones all over in Denmark. We have the city zones, and then we have the rural zone. And the rural zone is a very restrictive zone. The farmers can make what they want to do, but if you want to change something, to build a house, to make a small lot to build a house, you need a permission, and it's very restrictive administrated. Years ago, we had and we reorganized the administration of Denmark. We had 3 levels: state level, and a middle regional level, and the municipality level. The municipalities were too small to handle all the new jobs they got from the state, and therefore they had to be bigger. At that time, and the middle region nearly disappeared. They only deal with what do you call it? It doesn't matter. But the municipalities got the planning, also the planning of the open area. So in fact, we also intend to involve the municipalities' plans of the open land as a platform for all interest to be in discussion with the development of the areas in the municipalities. So this could be a platform for a concrete project of multifunctional activities in the countryside. So we also want to involve the planning. Yeah. Yes, it's a very, in my point of view, very important tool, because at the moment the planning system in Denmark is very open with public participants. So it's a very democracy process.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say this, because I think actually in land consolidation law in the Netherlands, it's obliged to go to all those authorities, like the municipality, the water board. Yeah, of course, we have the water board. It's something typically Dutch. Yeah. And the regional government, and we must consult them on their spatial plans to make sure that if we start a land consolidation, that we first make an overview of the objectives to be achieved, so that we don't start land consolidation and later find out that, well, the regional government wanted to have to upgrade the road, for example, or wanted to enlarge the area for nature conservation. So that's why we first must start with a consultation of all stakeholders, and especially the government agencies that do have a role and responsibility in spatial planning, to make sure that the plans align and that you don't waste money. And on the other hand, well, this is really kind of a comprehensive or holistic view in land consolidation, I would say, and it has a legal basis in this sense. So I will keep an eye on the time. We have only 2 minutes left, and I'm very much pleased with all the questions from the audience, and well, it's much appreciated that you are so active and that the topic is relevant also for you, and that we had the opportunity to have these 5 land consolidation experts here to present all the different country practices, and to hear from your experiences and your views on land consolidation. And well, I think we touched upon many relevant topics in this to make sure that's inclusive, fair, and in the benefit of society, I would say, to really pursue a sustainable development. So I would like to conclude. Normally we do have an Ask Me Anything session directly scheduled after this session, where you can meet with the presenters and also with if participants would like to ask and talk through a little bit longer. But however, we do have scheduled also at 12 o'clock the commission meetings. So I know part of us is going to the commission meeting. So that's why we would like to cancel the Ask Me Anything session, because most of us have to move now to the commission meetings. So if you would like to join the commission meeting, well, it's just about each commission and the work and activities they would do. I can provide you with the link, at least from Commission 8. But just please note that the Ask Me Anything session, there won't be anyone from us, unfortunately, due to a clash in the program. Well, if I do not forget anything, I would like to say a final thanks to all the presenters and to having you here and giving the presentation, and your excellent preparation with providing me all the videos, which, well, partly is smooth. We did some hiccups, have had some hiccups, but it went all well. And I enjoyed it thoroughly having this discussion, and hope to see you again in the future. and that we can continue this discussion. And for your information, tomorrow we will have a workshop about a generic tool for land consolidation. This will start at 9 a.m. So you are cordially invited as well to join this one. And if you like this topic about land consolidation, there's also scheduled another session this afternoon from the FAO, which is about land banking. It's another land policy instrument, but they relate it to land consolidation as well. So we will have some other discussions about land consolidation further on in the program. So, well, you're invited for this as well. So these were my final words. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the day and the program.
Thank you very much, Marine.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.